foundation. Cycles, ancestors, home and community, trade and exchange, language and song, survival and resilience, and art. The Native Narrative Speaker series is generously funded by Edward and Maria Gale and the Gale Family Foundation. I can't thank them enough for continuing to support this series. I'm welcoming you all this afternoon. My name is Marita Hines. I'm the Director of Education here at MIAC. Marla is a contemporary painter from Laguna Pueblo. In her early life, she found influence by the photography of Lee Marmon and paintings by Floyd Solomon, fellow Laguna Pueblo artist, who later became her mentors of Marla and still influence her artwork today. At the age of 19, after graduating from the Institute of American Indian Arts in 2000 with an associate's degree in three-dimensional art, she has been awarded various artist residencies, internships, and opportunities to travel nationally and internationally. Now living in Healdsburg, California, Allison maintains a professional lifestyle of a full-time artist. Her career has yielded lectures, murals, illustrations, and museum exhibitions nationally and internationally. Please, Marla Allison.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here, for traveling such a multitude of far distances to come all this way to hear me talk. I'm really thankful to the MIAC Museum for putting my piece into this permanent collection here in Here Now and Always. It means a lot to my work and to the Pueblo and to what it signifies. And I would like to first say in my native tongue, Guatsi Sehopa, Katawashra Tinu Stitch, Wahiname Yawita Jewi, Zithanuta, Shuimi Washtitsa, Hatsatse So'o. My name is Marla Allison. My Indian name is Prayer in the Song. And on my Hopi side, my name is Delevancy, which means when the sun is at the point of horizon of rising and setting. My grandmother gave me that name. I'm part Laguna Pueblo, where I was raised, Hopi Pueblo and Jemez, and half Anglo from my father's side. I'm a little nervous, but I'll get over it. Just letting you know. So I want to take this time to walk you through a journey of not only my own journey, but Laguna Pueblo and the Pueblo people in connection to the significance of the painting that's in the museum and the path that I'm going with my contemporary artwork. So I have found lots of influences along the way, but the main beginnings for all Pueblos started from Chaco Canyon as far as history has shown. The time of Chaco Canyon is from 850 to 1250 CE, Common Era. That was the heyday of Chaco Canyon, but it was probably and most believed that it was the beginning of all Pueblo people. And sometime in 1250, there was a change of atmosphere and environment, or war, or it could have been invasion of tribes. The written word wasn't quite easy to access at that time to know full records. So most people dispersed and went to a whole mix of areas, and a certain group went to Laguna Pueblo. And also Hopi, which is where a lot of my family is from. I'm a part of the Water Clan there, and almost everybody I'm related to on Second Mesa. In Jemez Pueblo, I'm related to all the Toya family, which is almost half the village. And of Laguna, I'm related to at least a third of there. So thankfully, through the Water clan, the matrilineal side, and the Turquoise clan of the Jemez patrilineal side, I can kind of figure out who I'm related to through the clan connection. Being part of the Water clan are the water carriers. And to start with, the time of beginnings, women in general from the desert would carry pottery vessels, ceramic vessels, and would adorn them with designs. And those designs are passed down mostly through women because those were the ones who built them and carried them while the men were out hunting or building or doing the various jobs that were before jobs, I guess, before what we call jobs these days. So starting at the beginning of research, the Laguna Pueblos were in place growing corn. Mostly they would be raising corn and crops, and that was our livelihood. We had herds of elk that would come through. We had a lot of rain and a lot of rivers. Now it's not so plentiful because of the people upstream with mining, with various industries that are in Gallup and farther beyond. But the water has dwindled a bit, yet it still thrives, thankfully. Life had changed for Laguna Pueblos starting in 1589. Actually 1540, the first Spaniards were coming through. And in 1598, the first Spanish colony was started and established. This information is coming to me from the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center website. You can find a lot of information through them. They also have books on the Pueblo Revolt, which is the main pinnacle of pride for a lot of Puebloans. In Washington, D.C., there's a huge sculpture of Pope carved by Cliff Rawa, which commemorates one of two native-made sculptures in all of the United States that are in this huge place that signifies we as natives need to make more sculptures and get into that capital to show we make artwork. And it's growing. And I cheered on Cliff Rawa to start teaching everybody from every state to start doing it. So I hope it happens. Thankfully, I was able to have a booth right next to him for this Indian market. So signifying August 10th, 1680, that was the start of the Pueblo Revolt. This was the only war that Native Americans won against Europeans and kept their solitude to rebuild for a whole 12 years. It says that we're meant to be a mix of people. We should not hold that as a chain or anything that is in a badly significant way. We should embrace this change because that's what makes life here today so beautiful and so multicultural. And I just want to make sure that I acknowledge that part of our past and to show its importance, to share its importance to not only Pueblos, but to all those that are living here now. And the title of the exhibition that's here at the Mayak, Here Now and Always, it just shows that we have been here since the beginnings, and we are now and current, and we'll always be here. Thankfully, we get to make art. We get to make it in connection to what our lives are now and what it will be. So in this beginning, I just want to say how history is exciting. It's not stagnant. we as Pueblos and Europeans and all cultures are curious. We need to move and explore and to make art, share ideas, and if we're lucky, we get to show them all over the world. The art and the life is why I'm here. And I'm showing it's not timed paintings that I'm showing, I'm just showing the significance of the paintings that I've found from history. And they're not exactly dated to go with the time, but they're significant of the images of throughout time to share as we go with this story. The art of a people is one I want to acknowledge and to share how continuous and moving from the homeland outward that has helped this movement. The main form of artwork from Laguna especially is the pottery. And what really helped with this piece of art to be shared further was the start of trains. In 1880, just 200 years after the battles with the Spaniards, 200 years, the trains were now rolling through the country, even through the well-established, thankfully, the well-established trade route through Mexico and further was already there. That signifies why we have shells, why we have parrot feathers in our prayer sticks, and how we have little katsunas with prayer feathers. There was always a trading line that was all through South America and further up. But what made it more accessible and faster was the start of trains. And it allowed our women to become and to earn income, which was huge. Most women were really, they were the matrilineal side. They do carry the clans, and they do have children, and they do provide sustenance and food and water. But now, with the opening of trains, this allowed them to be artisans. It grew a new title. From farming, learning life and what income was, the trade system was the new meaning of the Wild West. It was the new meaning of sharing what this place had. And lots of people came here and wanted to see that. They wanted a piece of that article of life. They wanted something to say, hey, I was there and I love this place, and I'm going to take this piece of artwork home because I want a piece of that in my home where I go to. And thankfully, it continued. It allowed all of us to be able to leave the Pueblos as well and to travel further. To know that this was the very start is very exciting and was part of lots of people's lives. My great-grandfather is not this man. He was a painter. He was the only painter that I know of on my mother's side. He was the Jemez, he was full Jemez. He came to Laguna to live with my great-grandmother. He painted the trains for the Santa Fe Railroad Company, and he painted on the side for fun. His big excitement was Geronimo, whom he loved. He loved the story, and the story is what keeps us all going, right? It's history. It's somebody of significance. You want to paint them, and he would work on the trains. He would fix them if it hit a cow or a horse or an elk. He would go back and he would paint the paint that was scraped off by such a large animal, or he would wake up at 2 in the morning and help to clear the carcass off the railroad so it could keep moving. So he was a part of this movement, which is very exciting, as well as my great-grandmother, his wife. She wasn't a painter, but I loved her. And she was a hardworking woman who worked on the trains for maintenance. She would help fix things too. Both blue-collar people whom were a big part of the history of Laguna. She was an amazing woman. She lived up until I was in my 20s. And it took me 20 years from art school and to, I don't know, just a few years ago, where I felt able enough to paint her with the spirit that she has, significantly. Her name was Helen Toya. Yeah, they were incredible. Tony Toya, my great-grandfather, was a great man, and my great-grandmother also. She lasted for such a long time. She was born in the same year as Lee Marmon, also a mentor of mine, in 1925. So to consider, when the trains came in 1880, they were still pretty fresh. They were just starting to move, and from dirt roads of horse-drawn carriages to trains that they could now access, they saw significant change to the pueblos. My great-grandmother's mother never learned any English, and my great-grandmother, she was full Laguna. She spoke the Carisan language, and it wasn't until she was in her teens she was sent off to Carlisle Indian School, where she learned English reluctantly, but she did. And at that time, also early 1900s, in love with American lifestyle and thankfully to transportation, Edward S. Curtis was also making his rounds in the United States. This is a painting I did of him as well because I think he's very significant to history, to Native Americans. He captured life that we might have not have known. There are so many tribes that lost everything, and thanks to his recordings, to his photographs, California Indians can piece together their history that was lost. So many other tribes. And and he captured that because he had the romance of Native American life. That was also going to be a joke for my parents because my dad is English and my mom is Native, so the romance of Native American life was kind of like, oh, that's why I'm here. But sadly, they couldn't make it today. They're just they were traveling themselves and just got in from Florida, so they're pretty pooped out. And I told them to just stay home and rest, which I think is important for all of us. Thanks to Edward S. Curtis, we can see life of what it's like before the full change of westernization. He came to the Pueblos and photographed Laguna and Acoma. So Laguna and Acoma, we're rivals if you talk to us, but truly we're very, very similar. We came from the same place. We have family that intermingles and crossed over a little bit of land. And so most Lagunas will say, I'm not Acoma, and make sure that that's clear if you tell them that. But in history, it's really hard to tell the difference of pottery and where it comes from. If you go to the School for Advanced Research, they can say the difference very, very slightly, but it's very difficult to find that. And the way you find it is through the design work and through families. And sometimes the grandmother is half Laguna and half Acoma, so it's kind of hard to tell the difference. But it's there, although what Edward S. Curtis caught was the women who were doing the tasks of all Pueblo women, who would go to the rivers, who would go to the ponds, and they would gather water. They would carry the water on their heads, and they would bring it home to their family for nourishment, for relief. And that's part of what brings me here to the Mayak Museum, is sharing that beauty, sharing this culture and the paintings that have come from it into modern day life. I'm trying to capture history every way I can, and by way of showing photographs or silhouettes and also the pottery design that is of my family and the Water Clan. what I've researched through time is what makes this painting a part of this present moment of why we're all here today. So Curtis allowed us a glimpse into the past. He also photographed Nampeo. Nampeo was one of the leading women matriarchs of the Hopi Pueblo, who now has a huge line of family that all carry the name and all make the pottery still in that name. But he photographed her in her home, grinding clay, and captured the real artistic movement of what she does and had done. And I thought, wow, isn't that amazing? Her natural color, well, I mean, it's not her natural colors, but her natural outfit, her what she's making, that's incredible. And I think that I feel lucky to be a painter, to be able to show this and to have this painting in my arsenal of work that I've made. So Curtis was incredible, as well as my mentor, Lee Marmon. He was a huge influence on my life. He was raised in Laguna, half Anglo as well and half Native. He was one of the few Native Laguna men who actually had blue eyes. They called him the Blue-Eyed Indian. He was a photographer about the same time as my mother's mother. And he was born in 1925. My great-grandmother was born in 1900s, just to be clear about that. So born in 1925, sadly he passed away in 2021 during COVID time. He was well-loved, and he deserved a parade. In this photograph, he took a photograph of Mr. Jeff Sosa, who was walking in the plaza in Laguna, and every time Lee Marmon would see him, he said, "Hey, Jeff, let me take your photo." And he said, "No. You take photos of all the cool people. You don't need to take a photo of me." I say cool. I don't think that's really what he said, but in my head, that's what he said. And finally, Lee Marmon had his camera out, and he had his cigarillos in his pocket. And Jeff says, "All right, I'll sit for your photo if you give me one of those cigarillos." He said, "All right, this is great." So Jeff sat in a place where Lee asked him to sit. This place is still pretty significant, and you can still see this place early in the morning in Laguna Pueblo. And he was able to take this iconic photograph. This photograph was significant to Lee Marmon. This is the main photograph that he's known throughout the world for. It took him to the Czech Republic for the first time in his life. It took him to London. He traveled all around the world because of his photography. One of the few Laguna photographers that was able to go on this path. And it made a huge difference in his life. He made a huge difference in my life. And thankfully, he's allowed me to paint his portrait, which this photograph was taken of him by his wife, Kathy Marmon. It's just proof that we're good friends. But also that I thought he was incredible. And if I can paint his photograph, all right, that's a win for me in my career. This photograph signified what he knew. As an artist, we know the mortality importance of the work that we do. We have to use every minute, importantly, to make great work, but also to share it and to share the story and to share where we come from and to make sure that it's heard. At age of 19, I graduated from the Institute of American Indian Arts here in Santa Fe, and I was awarded an internship down to Mexico, where I spent the first week and last week in Mexico City, but 6 weeks of that time was down in the southern state of Chiapas. There I was able to do drawings of political leaders with a professor from the NMSU branch in Las Cruces. And he went and did interviews of all these significant gentlemen. And along the way, I was able to do sketches and doodles of them, which ended up going into his book. And that was the first place that I was able to be published into. And since then, I was able to meet Lee Marmon. And I came back. I didn't know what to do because I just got out of art school. You don't just suddenly become an artist. So I worked with my Aunt Denise, who had a flower shop, and I was able to do flower arrangements for a little while with her. During that time, she also sold gifts of local artisans, and Lee Marmon would come in on occasion and bring small photographs that she would sell for him. So I got to meet him, and we both realized that, we're jokers, and his jokes were incredibly fun, talking about monkeys falling off of trains during the circus time, and his cousin who claimed one of those monkeys and kept it in the attic. I mean, stories like that, you don't just hear every day, but Lee Marmon had a wealth of wonderful stories that were amazing to just sit and listen to. But he would tell me about his travels, and I got to tell him about mine, and it was what made our friendship so significant. The hard part in the 1970s, it took a change for a lot of pueblos and a lot of people visiting that photographs weren't allowed. And the change of pueblo privacy came into play. A lot of people would come and visit, but a certain amount would take a little more than what was given. So eventually, a lot of pueblos realized that we need to set boundaries, and we need to make this a little more sacred and quiet. And that's about the time when most outsiders weren't allowed into the pueblos, into the deeper cultural events that would happen, because they just wanted it to be theirs. It was a private matter, and it was a private family event. So it changed Lee Marmon's life as well. He wasn't just doing photographs of the pueblos. He was moving further and beyond. He started going to Las Vegas, and he would photograph Sammy Davis Jr., and he would go to Palm Springs and photograph the Bob Hope golf tour, which he was the favored photographer of that time. So he has a lot of significant celebrities that he would take photographs of. So we also had that share of people we've painted. I've never met the Queen of England, but I painted her. I've never met Edward S. Curtis, but I painted him. And we both understood the significance of people and why a portrait must be made of them. So thanks to Lee Marmon, I have been able to paint a lot of his photographs. He gave me carte blanche of being able to paint his photographs, and I am the only person that is allowed through the family, and I still give a percentage to the family to continue that, and hopefully it helps them too. It's very important to me to acknowledge. So in 2010, to continue this timeline, in 2010, I was awarded a 3-month fellowship here in Santa Fe. That was a big career step in my life. That also, it allowed me to research the pottery in the School for Advanced Research here in Santa Fe. It also allowed that tether to grow looser as to connection to Laguna, and to know that my significance is getting pulled somewhere else. So it really helped me to find my meaning as an artist. And in 2017, I was awarded an artist fellowship to go to Abu Dhabi in the UAE, United Arab Emirates. This was the first trip outside of the United States that was, well, I guess at 19 that was kind of something, but it was still on the North America land. This time was on the other side of the world, to go and be there along with 4 other Native American artists in a land far beyond here, to share what this Pueblo girl has and understands, and to give significance to the pottery design and the artwork that has always influenced my work and has carried me throughout. I feel that as Pueblo people, we have more to tell. We have songs, lyrics of the potters, of speaking of rains and plants and life that come from the earth and from far away. We carry seeds that go farther beyond what is here. And many times it's missed, but sometimes it's actually caught and able to grow. My artwork is the wave that I'm riding to go around this world. And it is also significant elsewhere. On the right, this is the painting that I made while in Abu Dhabi after I learned some of their culture. Desert dwellers are very similar all around this world. And on the right that you see is a silhouette of a Laguna woman wearing shawls and carrying their pottery that's made in the shape of what we use here. On the left is an Emirates woman doing the exact same thing in the same shape and style of what they carry. And it's so similar. Cultures, music that we share, the understanding and the importance of nature, they got it. And I showed them, and I carried that pot on my head in the same way. And they saw it. They showed me too. We saw how us desert people survive with what you have. And I learned how they do their work, but we also were able to share how we pray. I was able to see this while there and share how we do what we do here in a slight way. I mean, I didn't bring a drum and start dancing or anything, but I would explain it to them, and they knew the significance is just as important as it is to them. This was some of the images that I feel was important to keep in my artwork as well. This is a Emirates woman in her traditional clothing with a shawl over her head. And I thought, women are, the women there were beautiful, but the life as well, the tile design, I just intermingled that with the same style I was using, which is a layer of design work and the person underneath, or the being underneath. Symbolically, it lets it be mine, and it lets it be my style. And this is what I was able to make while there in Abu Dhabi. And this was a mosque that I was able to visit, which was also very significant. It was their church. It was their place that they have their religion. But inside, I don't have a photograph of it. It wasn't allowed. Inside, they had a wall that had all the names of who they would call Allah. But that's just God in every language. And they had every name that is in religions, at least as far as they knew when they built the mosque, all written down in Arabic language, signifying that all those prayers that go up to whomever is praying to whomever, that's important, and that's what religion and churches, that's what it is to them, and that's what I thought was incredibly wonderful to be able to see so far away, but also to embrace. And shortly after, in 2019, I was given an artist residency. Well, one was to England, which I didn't remember to add some slides to, but the second one was to Saudi Arabia. I was given an artist fellowship there for a residency for a month, and it was incredible. I got to see a lot of camels, and I got to see why camels are important. These camels are worth $1 million or more each, and that is not a little sum. That is an investment. That is wealth. You're carrying this camel that carried you, and you feed them the best of grains. You treat them to the best of desert sands. You give them water, and they give you $1 million if you feel like selling them. But they give wealth, and they give purpose to the men of the desert. So this was in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, 2019. I was there with 45 other artists from 35 other countries, and I was the only one from the Southwest, the only Native American, who I felt so privileged to be able to see everything that was there. It was a festival for camels and the beauty of it, and for the life that has given them the power and money to live, but also a connection to the rest of the world. They brought artists from all countries, all parts of the world that they could, but they brought everybody else. They brought a bull riding setup. They had people flown in from Colorado and their bulls. They had dancers from Argentina. They had sumo wrestlers from Japan. There were archers from Kyrgyzstan, whom I got to meet and learn from. All these people, it was a World's Fair. It was the World's Fair that the son of the King of Saudi Arabia had made with the one gentleman that had me in the residency in Abu Dhabi, also set this residency up, which he believes is the biggest artist residency the world has had yet. But I'm sure there'll be more, and hopefully I get invited to the next one. This was myself during an interview, which I thought was a pretty good photo. My eyebrows looked great in this one. They also thought my camel was great and interviewed my camel. That was one of two paintings that I made while there in Saudi Arabia as part of trade, and thanks for having me there. I added some gold leafing to it, so it made it extra beautiful in moonlight, which that's when I got to walk around and see the rest of the fair and got some tours. So I thought, wow, why not paint what I see? But the main thing that I wanted to paint was the significant heart of a people and the place. And although I'm an outsider and woman and not Muslim, I wasn't allowed to go to Mecca, but I made Mecca come to me. And this Mecca is the biggest part of Saudis, of Muslim culture. In the book The Alchemist, which I read before going to Riyadh, I was just outside of Riyadh. I read this, and it helped me understand the significance of the journey to Mecca. Most people, if they're able to, they try to go to Mecca at least once in their life. It's significant. Some people, if they're lucky and able to and can afford it, they go multiple times. But to realize and to find out the importance of what it is, I thought I should try and paint that. And since I had all these amazing artists around me, I also put them to work to help me with it, because it puts them there too. It puts all of us there. This is my great friend Abinoro Collins from Nigeria, who's a famous sculptor, and he does incredible giant sculptures out of cutlery, giant sculptures. And the gentleman in the back is Alijas Vidras, who's a mosaic artist from Slovenia. He was putting together little mosaic pieces, and he invited all the artists to come and add a piece to go into his artwork. So I thought I'd do the same thing, you know, Tom Sawyer style, have everybody come in and say how great it is and fun it is, so that way it makes the work much faster. But it also adds all of us into that piece. The little boy in the scarf was one of the children of one of the lead men in Saudi Arabia, and he was able to paint as well. And so finally this piece came about, where all of us added a paint stroke one way or another. Even my lead kind of boss guy, Mr. Ahmed, he added himself in there too. And we all now can be there in Mecca together. Everybody added a piece. Even a friend of mine wrote the script, which was actually part of the main book, on the side of the building in the center. And this arm wrestler from Romania added a little star, and a guy from Morocco showed me how to paint the lights up on top to really shine and to look like real lights. A few other men from Saudi were very much into architecture, and they said, the architecture of Saudis is very important. You have to get those right. So painstakingly through every night, I would sit there and fix and correct and add the shadows and all the colors. And the day before the final show, I finally put the last paint stroke on, and I was able to show it. But it took so many hours to make this. And I am thankful to everybody for their collaboration and helping me with it. So all of this has been thanks to my parents, their encouragement, their life and love has given me strength to be the artist I am today. And so I painted them as well. And these paintings, these are now in the permanent collection at the Heard Museum. The video that shows behind them, on my mother's side, it has an 8-minute video of her telling her story of her life. Being a Native woman, falling in love with a Anglo man from Florida, how they met, and the 5 children that they raised. And on my father's side, he talks about what it's like to grow up in Florida, be a beach bum, having 3 sisters himself, meeting a Native American woman, and coming to the Pueblo lands and learning what that's like to have children and what it's like to have them raised in a traditional lifestyle. That is a huge difference for the life that he was in to now what he's living as well. And I thought their stories were important because it shows what Americans do. It shows what people in the world do. We travel, we love, we make children, or we make art. And you know, we find this common journey together. This is a significant painting, one of my most significant paintings I've made. It's the largest ever. And this was made by the Albuquerque Balloon Museum, for the Albuquerque Balloon Museum. They had a big exhibition a couple years ago and asked me to be a part of it. The hard part was, it was during COVID, so when we had our grand opening, about 20 people were able to show up with masks, and it would have been, I'm sure, filled with hundreds of people if it was of the able time like today. This piece is now having a house built just for it to be in the center wall, and will be hanging sometime soon. So after the Saudi Arabia residency, my life changed. Went through a divorce, started painting murals, started doing rooms at the Nativa Hotel. I got room number 416 if ever anybody wants to go see it. It's a big room. That's an amazing piece. And since then, I've found a further journey as life continues, as well as my paintings. And it's taken me to California, where it changes my territory. It changes my inspiration in the artwork that I do. And it changes my way of thinking. I'm allowed to now have this grander area of territory to learn and understand, and now finding a way to show my artwork as well as the significance of pottery design on a more global market and ever-evolving change of life. So it's now brought me to a different style, which is my hope to do bigger shows in museums and to connect this small path of Pueblo pottery to the further grand audience. And by way of taking a slight bit of Southwest icon images and allowing that to be this growing, changing, emotional type of style of work in abstract, I'm still able to put pottery designs within, but in a very subtle way. In the blue up on top is just enough to give that glimpse of ancestral connection, but also it allows me to share these layers of reality and life in a way of painting and in a way of growth that every artist needs to go through. And this is my journey so far, and I'm very thankful for all of you to be here and hear it. Thank you. There you go.
If you can turn the lights on, Marla and I are going to sit here and have a little conversation.
That wasn't too bad.
No.
I thought it was going to be a little shorter, but kind of went on a little.
So I'm going to ask Marla a few questions, and then after that, we'll open it up to the audience for Q&A. And then after that, we'll have a little reception outside in the lobby. So thank you. And we'll have somebody come around with the microphone. Okay, you touched base on this a little bit, and this is about your piece that's in the Here, Now, and Always exhibit. It is such a popular piece. Can you tell us a little bit more about that piece, your inspiration? I know you do a lot of pieces about with the pottery, and that piece in particular with Edward Curtis, but if you can tell us a little bit more.
Yes. The painting that's in the exhibition is a 3-panel piece that at the time I didn't have a very large car, so I had to break it into parts so I could make the full piece what it is. But I thought if I was able to piece it together, then I was able to show something bigger and still be able to transport it. So I made the piece on purpose in panels because I knew of the vehicle that I had, but also the importance of the female figure representing and carrying pottery is a labor that I feel I've gone through in my life too, carrying that burden of, it's not really a burden though, carrying that with the labor of love, carrying traditions in with my artwork. And so it was representational of what I mean, as a sort of self-portrait, which every painting is supposed to be, but more a reflection of life, of what Laguna women do and carry. I wanted to make sure that that was a large piece. And I showed that at my first solo show in 2017 at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. They had their front giant wing that they were offering to artists, and they asked me to be the first one to show in the front tower gallery. So that place is a giant area that has large rounded walls, similar to a kiva. And I needed something grand to be showing in that place, along with a mix of other sizes of paintings, because they were going to be offered to the public as well. So if you're going to have a big solo show, you might as well have a big significant piece that is in there too. So that was the main grand piece that was a part of that show. When I was making it as well, which I thought was it just happened to be perfect. My sister was in between jobs, and she said she needed some side labor, and I said, hey, I need someone to help me with this piece. So she came in and she would help me fill in some of the colors. So it was two sisters that are doing this work in the painting, but also two sisters making the work for the painting. I thought it was really fun to be able to have her help me. At night, I would do all the line work, and during the day, she would fill in the colors while I was still working around her. So I was this little busy bee as she's sitting there, la la la, filling in colors, and I thought, wow, what a great space to be with her. And you know, we grew a stronger bond thanks to that as well. So that's the best I can describe that painting. Yeah, labor of love, I guess.
And I know that we have a thing called staff picks, and so that was one that got like the most staff picks as far as looking at the work in the whole entire exhibit. So that was really great. So in case you didn't know that.
I didn't know that. I'm honored.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice to be recognized.
Okay, you use the pottery images a lot in your paintings, and there's, I'm wondering, are there any potters in your family, and have you done any pottery work?
That's a big question that I do not have many potters in my family. My younger brother, Jake, dabbles in it, but not in a professional manner. He does it for fun. And my Aunt Terry dabbled in it, but she did it for fun. My grandmother as well. I have a pottery that she's made, but she just did it for fun. Nobody that does it as, I guess, life purpose. You know, it's not a job or career. They just do it because they're naturally good at it, but they don't offer it to anything further than a Christmas gift for somebody. So most of the pottery design I learned was through the School for Advanced Research and the pottery that was within our homes growing up or family homes. So I would see those pottery, the vessels that were all around the house in collections, but I didn't really understand what they meant until I was able to do the 3-month fellowship at the School for Advanced Research. And that's where the pivotal change in life really happened. That's where I learned the significance of pottery, the importance of it, but also I learned it in my own way and how I could design some designs as well to add into, let it be my style. As far as making it, I have thought about it a lot, and I've done ceramics, but I've not connected the two yet. So maybe a collaboration is due to happen for next Indian market or something.
There you go. That would be
idea.
great. That would be wonderful. Okay, you've traveled the world, and we saw some of the inspirations that you had from Abu Dhabi and your other travels. What place have you had the most inspiration on your world travels?
That's a big question. After I did my residency in Saudi Arabia, I came home. You know, all the crazy stuff of divorce and life change and moving to Santa Fe happened, and then I got bored. The travel bug was still with me, so I started asking friends that I'd met out in Saudi, KSA, if I could just come visit them. So I started booking flights, and I started in Greece, where I spent 2 weeks learning how to sketch people, how to draw better from my friend Vasilios Goumas, and then his mother, Leah Mikolopoulos. She took me to this island of Ivrea, and I was able to stay in an artist house where we went through the country or went through the town and were drawing everything, and she would point out a moment, a scene. She said, draw this, draw that. And so she was giving me instruction as I was just spending time with her. And from there, I kept going, and I did about 9 countries total. I was able to go to Slovenia and learn mosaic work from my friend Aliej, stayed with his wife and child. And I went to Budapest, where I was able to do a lot of work and learn weaving from some of the Budapest women, and I was able to make paintings there. And then I went to Bahrain, and I spent time with 6 of the artists from the residency there, and they set me up to do a mural on the side of a children's psychiatric hospital, which I still need to finish. But I was able to spend 2 weeks with them learning and painting and learning how they paint, and yeah, then I went to Abu Dhabi after that and was able to walk the deserts with my friend from Greece who came to join me. She was Stavroula Mikalopoulos. I'm saying her name wrong. But she came out there, and she's a fellow painter, and we both just drew each other as well. We drew all the things, everybody that we saw, and we lucked out and had an exhibition at the same time because they had some spare paintings of mine. I brought some as well, so I came prepared. And after that, went to Prague for a little while, and finally I had an opening that was pre-planned in Bristol in the UK, where I do have a gallery that represents my work called Rainmaker Gallery. And that was also pre-planned. I sent a bunch of work there ahead of me, and so I had a solo show. But that place as well, I spent a month of residency there before the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia residency. All these places are Easter eggs. They all have gems of spots that have inspired me. There was one other place I forgot to mention, in Italy. I was able to spend a couple weeks there and travel all around, seeing vineyards and fogginess and the Colosseum and all these amazing places. And you know, it's all glorious and wonderful, and sometimes way too much. And I probably did way too much while I was there, but it was also just enough. It was an artist's journey. Yeah. And thankfully, going out there, I was able to meet my boyfriend Alex in London, where it's now taken me to California and changing my life significantly. So all these places, everywhere that I've been, it's all inspiring, and it's all connective. But it also shows me the significance of what I have here as well, and the importance of who I am when I return, and realizing, wow, all these together make this wonderful concoction of artwork.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. I knew you when I worked at the excuse my voice. I think it's allergies, but I tested. It's not COVID. So. So when I worked at the Institute of American Indian Arts, there was a pushpin show over at the Museum Resource Department, and I purchased a piece from you. And so I was lucky and fortunate enough to get that. Gosh, and you were like 19?
I think I was
20,
in my 20s.
20s.
This was like right after I started doing the Santa Fe Indian Market. It was probably before I got into Indian markets, so maybe I was 23, 24.
Right, yeah. So for somebody who's starting off and kind of they don't know exactly what their career path is, or they're thinking about getting into art, what would you recommend? What advice would you give them?
Well, a lot of being an artist is the luck of the draw, for sure. But discipline in doing the artwork and following every open door that actually comes about, trying to get over being scared, is also another challenge that I know every artist goes through. So to be able to follow those dreams and to keep going with it, however you make it work, that's the important part, is just to stay true and keep doing it. I know so many people that even this year that hard times have fallen on them, and they say, "Oh, I'm done. I was a part-time artist, but now I'm just completely done." And I think, no, that's not possible. You can't just all of a sudden not be an artist. You're still gonna create. You're still gonna make things. And I know that they'll be back. Maybe they're just making a big deal because it's Facebook and they want to be dramatic. But I hope that all artists continue with what they're doing. And I think the most important part is just to know what's inside and to keep painting that, to just keep at it.
Yeah. And I think that's actually, I think for some artists or for some people, they look as artist therapy. So instead of quitting, you would think that they would want to immerse themselves more into it.
That's so true. The place where I'm at now, I'm in a big studio of 9 studios total. I'm the one young current artist that's in there. All the rest of these people are retired. And they've all waited to be an artist. They've all waited to have their own studio and to go in day out and paint. And I find it magical to be around them. We sit there and we talk about the color cobalt blue. I mean, there are significant moments in the creation of cobalt blue and throughout time how it's made. And, to be able to have a artist nerd talk on a random afternoon is so important to every artist or anybody that's excited about their work. And they're still going, they're still doing it. Thankfully to them, one of them, well, we all realize we're in a kind of crappy building. It's not that beautiful. But it was noticed. And finally, big moves are being made. So we got 2 city grants and have a huge mural team that was just built this summer. They asked me to be the lead artist in this team, which I've never really done, but I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be significant to the history of this city, and to be able to have my hand in it, to be one of the artists that gets to make a huge significant change to this city that I now live in, and to have a collection of collaboration artworks and sketches of all these artists of this place to be put on a wall. It was totally unexpected, but it's a great surprise and an excitement that is now building to finally come to fruition in November. So we're hoping to have a huge 108-foot by 15-foot tall mural put on the side of our building, and it's gonna say, "Hey, I was here." That's like me signing, my name in the concrete. Like, I get to say I was here with that piece. So it doesn't die. Artwork is always with you. It stays with these people. Their excitement is so gratifying to me to make me want to be better. And yeah, I hope all artists get that. Sometimes it's in between.
So with that being said, and you have that project coming up, what other projects or what else is coming up in your life as a woman artist?
Well, hopefully some relaxation. Now that Indian Market is over, this show is very trying on mind, body, and spirit. But I have a residency coming up in Germany next summer for about 3 months. I need to double check on that, but that was started in Budapest, where I did a small. I did a museum show in connection to a conference on Native American writing, and through the conference, I was able to co-curate a museum show where a lot of local artists, Mateo Romero, Roxanne Swensel, Tammy Garcia, Autumn Bortz Medlock, Will Wilson, myself, we were all part of this exhibition where our artwork was shown on projectors, because one Tammy Garcia to be shipped to Budapest would probably be the same price as the conference. So to make it easier, we just did a projection of all these images. I hope I mentioned Mateo Romero.
Yes.
He was important, and Diego Romero. All our work was on this wall in a huge museum, and thankfully Roxanne Swensel was covered to go with me as well. So we were both these keynote artists that were in the middle of Budapest and welcomed and adorned. And I hope that I can make this happen more often. Thanks to connections with other people and professors and their enthusiasm, it's happening. So to go to Germany, Bremen, one of the professors that was in Budapest is now setting up this residency for me to go to her university where she teaches. So I don't know, that's kind of the biggest thing so far.
Nice, thank you. So on your bucket list of places to go to, where would you like to go that you've not been to yet?
I've always wanted to see the glaciers of Alaska, just because I'm curious of what they sound like. I don't know. I could name every place, I guess.
Yeah.
Japan, Italy again. I don't know. One of the million of islands of Greece. Yeah, Egypt would be nice to revisit. That was a great place. Bahrain, I know I'm supposed to go back. I need to finish that mural. I don't know. I'm happy to go anywhere.
Yeah,
Great
there
Wall
you
of
go.
China, maybe.
Oh, there you go, right. You have this piece here. Can you tell us a little bit about this piece?
Yeah, this painting was the easiest one to pull out of my van, but also it was on purpose. This piece is showing my metallic era change in life and what paint colors I've been choosing most lately. The silhouette are brown pelicans from the Sea Ranch area in Northern California. These birds are incredibly beautiful. They're dinosaurs of the land, and they're still here with us today. I wanted to do them in the pottery style design that I show as like a screen. And in a way of going to California and painting these pottery designs, it feels like I'm marking my territory through my own eyes of a type of filter that allows it to be in my head home. So it connects what I've learned here with where I'm learning there, and it lets me allow myself to live there. So this piece itself is showing the land that I'm now living, and also the connection of my history with it, but in a way of just a beautiful design and colors that I find beautiful right now.
Great, thank you. This is a question that I ask most of the artists when they're here presenting. If this wasn't your career, what would you have done if you weren't a painter?
Oh yeah, I've talked about this, never on stage, but I was telling Alex one time that I think if I wasn't an artist, my uncle and aunt always told me not to join the military, but I would have loved to join the military, and I always wanted to be a pilot. So I think that would have been my goal, to be a pilot in the Air Force. It just sounds cool.
Yeah, and then you could fly all over the world.
Yeah, why not?
There you go.
Maybe I still can, who knows?
Sure. So we're gonna open it up. I have the mic here, and does anybody have any questions?
Should I stand up? Would that be easier?
It's not a question, it's an observation, something for you to consider. Are you familiar with Rotary International?
I am not.
Rotary International founded the United Nations. They were the progenitor of that. And Rotary International has scholarships that exceeds the roads. They have them for high school students, but they have something that's pretty unique, and they call it an ambassadorial scholarship. It allows people with diverse ideas and thoughts that advance world peace and other kinds of things to take time off and to go off and study or do something. So you can go to Rotary International, it's headquartered in Chicago, and look up ambassadorial scholarship. And then if you think that's of interest, go to what town do you live in or city?
I live in Healdsburg.
Where?
Healdsburg.
Okay, I'm going to imagine that there's a Rotary Club in that town
There
or somewhere
is.
nearby.
Yeah.
What you do is visit them, find out who the president is or the secretary, one of the officers, and tell them what your thought is. Chances are they've never had an application through that club for an ambassadorial scholarship. I think you're uniquely qualified for that.
Thank you. Okay, let's all cross our fingers. We'll all be flying together to Japan or something. That would be pretty. Yeah. I'll make sure. Thank you.
Can you talk more about how being in California has sort of changed your outlook, changed your palate, changed whatever, how it's affected you?
Let's see. Being in California has given me the unique difference of not being home and not being in a constant surrounding of what I know. So it's forced me to find my strengths in painting, as well as other things. But it's also shown me that window of how do I go international and how do I share my artwork to a global market that doesn't have to know Southwest artwork. If you come here and you're raised here, you understand, oh yeah, you know, horses, cowboys, or Pueblo life, or certain things that are of this region, and that artwork is great. I mean, and I'm glad I was able to make it. Photographs of Lee Marmon and of the Laguna Pueblo tribal people. But if you go somewhere else, they'd be like, oh, that's just another old lady, or that's just, you know, and it's not. But it after an explanation, then they could get it. But by first initial sight, that's the reason why I'm trying to make abstract work and landscapes of the area, trying to understand how do I make my artwork something more and have a stronger significance to it. And it's made me rethink meaning and why I'm painting it. It's not just for making something pretty anymore. I mean, that's still important, but also it helps me realize how do I show the importance of the birds and their age. I mean, truly, pelicans are descended from dinosaurs and still look like the dinosaurs they were descended from. So that's important. I mean, yes, I still do flowers and other birds on occasion, but it's as far as the way of thinking about artwork, it makes me realize that I have a stronger voice because nobody in California is doing the same work that I do. And then I look further, and not many people are doing the same style as well, the mosaic squares or the pottery design. And once in a while, I'll catch an artist, especially at the Santa Fe Indian Market, that is starting to use this influence, and I think, oh, how flattering. Somebody else is starting to do this layering process that they now see in my work, or pottery design that they know is significant to put into a background design. And so it's being seen, and now that I'm further away, I get to take a viewpoint that's not directly in sight, and I get to see, wow,
my work has been significant for what I've been doing. Being a artist for now 16 full years, it's made a lot of paintings, and a lot of people have been able to see it. So I get to now see a broader view of what I can do, but also have access to SF MoMA, have access to the Legion of Honors, all these museums and city life in San Francisco, just an hour away, and see what more there is to artwork and significance of it. Does that answer?
Anybody else have any questions?
It's just an observation. When you were asked, where would you like to go that you haven't been, the first thing out of your mouth was to see the glaciers in Alaska. And you are from the Water Clan.
Makes sense.
By the way, I saw that other person at Indian Market, and I said, oh, I can't remember who it was, or male or female, but I saw it kind of, not copying you, but influenced by you. I thought, oh, that's pretty cool.
That's the strongest form of flattery for any artist. I think it's really beautiful that people are seeing, and maybe they didn't even see my work. They just came to the understanding as well. And I think, like, yeah, right. It's important. It's significant to use these designs and to further them, other than just a ceramic vessel. Yeah, it's nice.
Any other questions?
Okay, well, thank you so much. Thank you, Marla, for presenting. We will have some refreshments out in the lobby. Our next speaker series is in September, so look at our website. I think it's September 21st. It's about language. So please come back for that. And thank you again for coming this afternoon.